Hi, I'm Ray Dalio. I'm sorry that I and my son, Mark Dalio, can't be there with you to host you on OceanXplorer because Mark and his wife in particular are about to have a daughter and I'm about to be a grandfather, and that's what's standing our way of being there. But we'll be back there soon and we look forward to seeing you. One of our great philanthropic passions is ocean exploration. I hope you'll take a look about the ship and learn more about what we're doing. But most importantly, we are partners with you, and we're so grateful to PAA for the association for being able to work on philanthropy together. We hope that you're going to be able to have a great time on the ship and learn more about the exciting things it does, and who knows, maybe we will partner together on something pertaining to it. But more importantly, the alliance of philanthropists who are interested in doing things together and really having an impact is what we are all behind and interested in supporting.
At OceanX, we work hand in hand with local governments, scientists, philanthropists, and educators to develop missions that can advance ocean understanding in a way that supports our partners' goals. The data we gather can lead to decisions that balance human progress with ocean conservation, supporting both people and the planet. And through OceanX education, we're developing and diversifying the next generation of ocean leaders who will help solve the world's most pressing challenges. With two-man submersibles, a remotely operated vehicle, full dive center, helicopter, and more, we provide unparalleled access to the ocean. With 4 onboard labs that do everything from genomic sequencing, AI analysis, to advanced microscopy, we can find the answers while still at sea. Next month, we'll launch a large-scale mission in Indonesia, working closely with local partners to gather data and conduct research that will help inform the creation of marine protected areas, fisheries management, and natural disaster mitigation for improved understanding of earthquakes and tsunamis in Sumatra. We will also welcome Indonesian youth to learn about the work happening on board OceanXplorer through education activations throughout Indonesia. Indonesia is just the beginning of OceanX's activities in the region. Over the next 5 years, we are excited to explore how OceanX can advance our understanding and conservation of the ocean in collaboration with partners throughout the region, including you, our fellow PAA members.
I hope you'll have a great and, most importantly, an interesting time on OceanXplorer. I'm very grateful for all of those who've organized it. I'm very grateful for you all to be participating in it with me. And our family will be there soon. And we look forward to being together with you and doing some great stuff together, I hope.
Welcome here. My name is Vincent Pirabone. I am the co-CEO with Mark Dalio of OceanX. Our opportunity, as we call it, what OceanX is, our secret sauce, is a combination of things. We like to balance, in our study of the ocean, we like to balance between human relations in the ocean and ocean systems, right? And we like to help create ocean economies. That's part of what we're doing. Unlock new climate solutions, identify medical breakthroughs, which is something that the ship has been involved in, and better protect coastal regions. So OceanX has this thematic approach to studying a particular area. We bring the vessel to a particular place and we do a range of scientific studies. So this is a kind of a summary slide we put together just to give you some idea that what we do begins basically with science. It begins with the study of the ocean environment. And since the vessel has been out, we've done 29 missions. The vessel's only been out in the water for about 3 years. We identified hundreds and hundreds of new species, and I put on the slide 30 because it's 30 large organism species. We've done about 1,600 subdives over the past 2 years. About 90 publications have come out of the vessel just in the past 3 years. 134,000 square miles of ocean have been mapped using our vessel, and 10,000 samples have been taken from the deep ocean, all part of what we do in scientific missions. So as the tri-legs of our tripod as an organization are science, media, and education. And media is a huge part of this. So not only do we explore the ocean, explore the world's oceans, but then collect this in really state-of-the-art media. The vessel was co-designed by Jim Cameron, the film director. So the entire vessel is a photogenic Hollywood film studio. And that's resulted in a number of projects, as you can see on the screen here. Blue Planet 2, Ocean Explorers is a 6-part series coming out on Disney in August of this year, shot with the BBC's Natural History Unit, National Geographic, and Jim Cameron. We did Our Planet. We've done work on our Blue Planet in a variety of different large, long-form digital products. We also have 10 million followers and growing on our social platforms. So every mission expedition that we do involves intensive social media posting, short-form digital, and long-form, as well as a variety of different educational products that we produce. So Mark Dallio runs the Ocean Education Program, OceanX Education Program, some of which you may be aware of because the vessel has been here in Singapore for the past several weeks, at which we brought about 380 students and educators onto this vessel for tours, for a very scripted educational experience to learn about what it's like to live and work on a research vessel. And we also do digital products as part of education, which are live events from the vessel. While we were in Saudi Arabia, we did live events all over the kingdom. We've done those in the Azores. We've done them all over the world where we travel. So while we're in Indonesia, we'll be doing live transmissions from the vessel using scientists from the region. We do on-ship educational programs. I'll talk about one called Young Explorers Program, where we bring young college students who have no experience and no presence on a vessel, and we teach them what it's like to do ocean science and ocean exploration. And finally, we do exhibits and outreach. We currently have a large exhibit in the U.S. recreated in a museum. There'll be exhibits showing up here in Singapore. We do small installations, pop-up museums, things like this, all centered around education around the ocean and exploration. So it's a very extensive program, and you'll see more of this as you travel through the boat. One of the programs I'll just highlight is called Young Explorers. While we transit between different locations, for example, between Singapore and Indonesia, between various places in Indonesia where we're not doing science as heavily, we bring on groups of young people. And they learn about operating a ship, they learn about science, and they learn about media, and they learn about educating. So we're educating the future educators of the world. So it's a program we call Young Explorers. We've done about 12 of them so far. I'm going to give you just a quick rundown, just to give you a taste of what happens. So we break things apart on the vessel as missions. These are planned well in advance. And in the past year and a half, I'm just going to highlight a few of the missions. With the previous vessel, we went to the Florida Keys. We did the most extensive study along the Florida Keys. I'm going to talk about a Red Sea Decade expedition we did in Saudi Arabia for 18 weeks and a mission we did in the Azores. So we did this mission in Florida in 2019. I highlight this because it's the oldest mission and has the most products that resulted from it. We brought a group of scientists from leading universities in the United States, as well as local scientists in Florida, and we made the most extensive examination of the dying coral reef system in Florida. I was born and raised in Florida, and I wanted to go back to this place and study it. And we collected hundreds of samples. We made new discoveries about the disease state of the coral that exists in that area. And a number of scientific projects and things came out of that. And then the mission Decade is one that we did in Saudi Arabia. We've been to Saudi Arabia now 4 times. And I'm just going to get to my notes because I want to make sure I don't miss the facts that I have. So this was an invitation from the Crown Prince to visit Saudi Arabia. And we did really what was the first ever, because those waters have been essentially closed to all vessels, domestic and foreign, forever, essentially. So this is the first in-depth analysis of that entire coastline from Yemen all the way to the Jordan border. And we discovered whole new ecosystems, entire underwater vistas, entire underwater communities that have really never been seen before. So it was a very, very extensive. And like I said, out of that expedition, I think we've published 27 papers so far and have another 60 on the way, just on what found out. And what that expedition did was it set the stage for the Saudi Arabia to develop an entire plan to protect that region, shallow and deep, from megafauna all the way to coral. So it was the most extensive expedition in their waters ever. We recently finished a short expedition in the Azores, which is a set of islands in the Atlantic Ocean, Portuguese islands. And the Azores were interested in protecting regions in their country as part of the UN's 30 by 30 program. They've never seen these seamounts that we went. So we did extensive diving, specimen collecting, and mapping of these seamounts and of the active ways in which large animals like whales and whale sharks travel in their country. So we mapped the progress of these organisms, and we mapped these seamounts for them, and now those will be included in their submission to the UN as part of the protected regions of the Azores. So without having seen them, they were never able to understand what was on those mounds. So we gave them the opportunity using this vessel to make those discoveries. But the biggest adventure lays ahead for this vessel. This vessel was designed and built with the intention of existing in these waters in Southeast Asia. So starting May 4th, I'm proud to announce, after 2 years of development, we have an expedition. Our first expedition in Southeast Asia will take place in Indonesia. We'll start in Banda Aceh in the very north of Sumatra and study the entire coastline on the south, bringing somewhere around 200 scientists on board the vessel, Indonesian scientists, European scientists, American scientists, as well as film crews, social media teams, educational programs. There'll be port calls at all the ports along the way. We'll travel the southern extent of all of Sumatra. We'll go to Bali, Komodo, and then up to Sulawesi to study the elusive coelacanths. So that'll be the first mission. That will be followed shortly by a mission in Malaysia, followed by Philippines and Thailand. And the vessel will remain in the waters in the area probably for the next 5 to 10 years. So what this is our first stop, of course, most important place in Southeast Asia, Singapore. The first stop was come to Singapore, introduce ourselves, let everybody know. So the vessel's been here for several weeks. We've been having events like this, bringing people on board, talking about the science, talking about what we do, talking about exploration, and inviting philanthropic members of the community to join us on these expeditions, both physically and also in support. So if you're interested in these topics that relate to blue economy, that relate to all the things that are happening in the ocean, these are topics that OceanX are very dear to our heart. So I'm really here to introduce the program to everybody and to say welcome and thank you for coming.
Good afternoon. It is terrific to see such a robust crowd at the end of 4 very fruitful, engaging, dynamic days. Let me just begin by issuing a heartfelt thank you to Ray, Mark, the entire Dalio family. The entire Dalio team has worked so hard to put this together. Our partners with PAA, thank you. What an extraordinary way to finish a really impactful week. So I'm Robert Rosen. I have the privilege of being the Director of Philanthropic Partnerships at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And I'm here to serve 2 roles today. First, I wanted to talk a little bit about networks in terms of giving, and specifically next generation, generational philanthropy, and the opportunities and challenges with that. And then I'll have the opportunity to host a terrific panel. We're going to keep it moving and dynamic. So first, I wanted to talk a little bit about our approach. So the Gates Foundation you may be familiar with. We've been around for 25 plus years, work in major issues across the globe. Most of our work is outside the United States, focused on things like global health, mostly on infectious diseases, development, gender equality, education, and other issues. But importantly, in the conversations that started with Warren Buffett's decision to support the Gates Foundation, Bill, Melinda, and Warren Buffett also had a very keen interest in playing a role in supporting philanthropy itself. So with that, we do quite a bit of work that I have a privilege of leading, of supporting the infrastructure and the networks and givers themselves in terms of maximizing their potential opportunity in philanthropy. And so it's our privilege to work here in Singapore, supporting PAA and other organizations like AVPN, the Asian Philanthropy Circle, and others. The piece that we might be most well known for is something that both Ray and Mark participate in, and other members of the family, called the Giving Pledge. The Giving Pledge was started a bit over 15 years ago, and it is a commitment of donors to give away at least half their wealth, although many will exceed that, in their lifetime or through their estate. Now, I don't want to go at length about the pledge itself, but I do want to talk about the value of networks, because what we've created is a robust network of almost 250 ultra-high net worth donors who are committed not just to be incredibly generous, but to be incredibly impactful in their philanthropy. And so, we do get a lot of visibility for the commitments, but most importantly, We see the connections when donors can find ways to connect with each other, to connect with great content, that can lead to tremendous impact. And so, for example, we do very specific content learning sessions on important issues like education reform, global health, climate, and even Ray was kind enough to host a session on oceans. And that brings the content to life. Importantly, we also have content that focuses on what we call the context for how one goes about doing philanthropy. Where does philanthropy fit in your life? What is your day job, or is philanthropy your full-time job like it became for Bill and Melinda after he stepped away from Microsoft? What are the family contextual issues? Have you had the clear conversations with your children about the role that you may want them to play, what role they might want to play, and all of the other issues that actually are, in terms of values and alignment, that are absolutely critical to ultimately having the impact where your dollars are flowing, reaching the audiences they need, and leading to the outcomes to make the world a better place. So early on, we recognized that the generational issues were a critically important factor. The biggest observation we had was the conversations that weren't happening. The conversations where the parents had a certain perspective on what they thought the kids might want to do in terms of the philanthropy, but those conversations hadn't been carried out to the children. And so actually through the network, a couple of the children of some of the original pledgers and grandchildren said, hey, can we start our own group? And that gave rise to the Next Generation group. For a long time, we kept it very quiet. The Dalios have been very active participants in it. We're finally becoming a little bit more visible in the fact that this group exists and deals with some of the most crucial issues in terms of deciding ultimately what will happen in terms of the impact. And so, the observation that I would share, and then I'm going to ask that our panel be called up so that we can get into the meat of the conversation, is nobody ever regrets having the conversation that they need to have, even if they don't want to get into it. And where the challenges lie is when things get left unsaid. That can produce massive misalignment, confusion, and ultimately be a huge barrier to having the impact that people want to have. And so my hope with the panel today is that we're going to uncover some of the really important perspectives that differ generation to generation, and get into how, hopefully for the audience, we can consider all of these together. With that, let me, Jen, if you could call up our panelists. You just joined us, so I'll start on my far end, and we'll work this way back. And as a question for an introduction, just as you introduce your work, tell us one thing you're most excited about, and also one of the challenges that you're confronting that you're going to have to solve.
Hi, I'm Boone. By profession, I'm an architect. By interest, I like design. Put it all together. I was interested in bringing clean water, clean energy, do something with my time in design. And we'll touch on this a little later, but one of the things I've done is secured a patent and designed it, and you see it right before me. It makes clean water without the grid. We'll talk a little bit about it later on. It makes about 1.5 liters of clean water per minute. Safe water. And I've been plowing with this. So donations is one thing. That's the bigger question is boots on the ground and getting this on the ground and getting it to people who need it. So, in a quick nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm guessing that's the piece that you're most excited about? Tell us why you're excited about it, what it can do, and also what's been a challenge that you've had to navigate.
When it comes to clean water, and what excites me is this. I've gone to many places. One of the things I often see is this constant reach out to seeking donation. For example, if you go to a place that needs clean water and they drop those purifying tablets. When you're done with that, you need more tablets, and you're constantly in need of donors. And at some point, you get donor fatigue. This one is different. There's a social, sort of social enterprise circle to it where you can make the clean water, sell the clean water, fund it yourself, and do it all. So what excites me is taking all these sustainable efforts, ESG efforts, and taking it out of donors' repeated pain point and teaching people how to make clean water, and it can self-fund itself. And that would be a dream come true if it works.
So what's the challenge?
challenge is getting more boots on the ground. So we're now in Cambodia. We've distributed. You visit the website later on. And also in Uganda. Issue is I need partners on the ground. And you know, we're not exactly the biggest organization in the planet. We have a solution, we have a patent, we have product. We just need to get boots on the ground. That's the biggest challenge.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sherry, over to you again. Just a quick introduction
Thank
and
you.
tell me what's most exciting and then a challenge.
Thank you. Isn't it exciting to be here? I mean, look at this. So I think I'm very excited to be back here in OceanX, and also Tokwe, Jennifer, and PAA. I think it's been a phenomenal week. And I'd like to, I think actually what's happening now is part of my excitement, because I think, you know, we have been supporting efforts linked to blended finance for since 2000, and so we are very delighted that there is now a lot of initiatives and platforms, and how Taman was the first to propose it at the G20, I think back in 2001, and then we have subsequently worked with the governments and the G20, and we were able to get all the G20 countries to support the G20 principles on blended finance, that, and also set up a new international organization on blended finance. And I think that is going to be signed in May with the country members. And I think Singapore will play a very key role, should play a really significant role, especially on climate finance, especially I think with the regulation. So I think we are happy to have, you know, worked with many partners, many of you here in the government, with Temasek, with others, and this is part of the excitement. And I think
What's the challenge?
Challenge, you know, I'm also the climate advisor to the government of Indonesia, and I'm also supporting our foundation and United in Diversity Foundation and other initiatives. But I'm also, you know, a mother, a wife, and also her business. We're doing a development in Bali, Kura-Kura Bali. We're very excited. OceanX is going to be there in July, and we do. How do you manage that? I think that to me is a big challenge. Yeah,
Time is a limiting factor. So over to you, please.
Hi. Yeah, I have to say, a little nervous, so bear with if I swallow my words and all this kind of stuff. We just do what we do, and then we got a call from PPA to say, come here. Okay. Thank you for that. It's an honor to be here and all that nice stuff. So the Holland Foundation Malaysia, we look into two pillars, education and enterprise. And we've been, for the last couple of years, delving deeper in the education side. So we go from like 3-year scholarships all the way down to 5-day turnaround times. So the two projects that we've been, well, I'm going to hone in on today is what we've called, the first one is Project Grout, because grouting and the physios, and we're trying to seal up the cracks. And we're working particularly with institutionalized children, looking at entry, intervention, and exit. And we've lined up a string of NGOs that we are piloting with for entry. If the reason is poverty, then we can look at income generation and all that stuff. But if the reasons are conflict with the law or children in detention, we can't do that, but we would be happy to look for other NGOs or other partners to help us with the entry. The whole aim is to reduce the amount of children in homes. Intervention is aspirational, trying to figure out what you want to do, all that stuff, enrichment, soft skills. And then exit is where we come in at our enterprise, employment, or enterprise employment is something else, right? Oh, education. And then the second project that we've been working on, it's not even a project, we made a broad statement 2 years ago, every single one of our projects is going to be inclusive. It's easier said than done, and we realized that a year down the road. So we've been looking particularly at Tibet and skills and trying to make transitions into employment for that. We've coined it Friends Beyond Labels, so we're trying to have an umbrella of allies, I guess the word is, so that it's easier to train employees en masse, and it's easier to find, because we want to match aspirations, right? So the more partners we have, the more we can just jigsaw the aspirations together. Because currently, the whole kind of landscape is stacking shelves, art, cooking. There is 100% a wider scope than that. So that's been taking a lot of our attention, trying to be inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you. So the focus here is on impact generation. Why don't I start, Sherry, with you? We'll mix up the order a little bit, just so I'll put you on notice, and then Boone, and then we'll come back and build on the conversation. There seems to be a difference. There seems to be a shift happening generationally. And so first, I'd love to hone in. What would you say is the difference? What are we seeing? I mean, we're clearly seeing some very different approaches in terms of innovation, blended finance, new products, new areas of giving. But tell me, what do you see happening, and whether that's specific to the region or more broadly?
Yeah, I think I'm also learning this term, the impact generation. And PAA, I think, has coined this, and it's really, when I studied what was written about it, I thought, actually, it's quite apt, because I think I learned about this kind of way of, through actually Peggy Delaney, my mentor. She's the daughter of David Rockefeller, and she has started this kind of a collaborative, it's called Synagogues. It's a New York foundation that supports tri-sector collaboration, multi-stakeholders process. It was very new in the sense that for I think my parents, my grandparents, they have always been doing impact. They have been supporting, communities, education, but I think they have not done it working with, let's say, the grassroots or the sort of foundations world. So I think, or maybe even sometimes sort of how do you work with the policymakers, and so that kind of process is something that is new, I think, newer, and I learned it through some of the mentors who have been doing that, and I think. That, to me, maybe is a differentiator. Thank you.
Boone, tell me, I mean, how is it different? Is it a mindset approach? Is it the tactics? Is it the innovation?
Just to correct, I think I'm in your generation. But what would be interesting, and I've noticed, and I speak openly, my son's 22, and we're Asians, right? At that age today, if you ask my son to eat shark's fin, he would not. They all have a different view of the future. I've known about shark's fin and, dolphins. We've known that for a long time, but me, I'm guilty. If it's served, I'll still eat it. I grew up in that generation, but our children are not of that generation. They're younger and they're looking at us, and I think what I would like to leave behind, if that might be a tool with innovation, is to give them a tool. Not the desire, I think they already have. The money we can find. We can, people can give money and sign up and give 50% of your wealth. But give and do what? Where does it go? So I'm of the view that innovation, doing it right, it's a zero-sum game. I mean, the ship may be out there fixing the ocean, but you're burning fuel. You're creating carbon footprint. So that's another set of discussion. But it's a zero-sum game because we take from something, we try and put back in something, and let's just see how good we are at innovation so that we can close the circular economy of the carbon credit planet, right? And I think innovation is the answer. And after you have that innovation, the question is how affordable can the innovation be? Can we get it down to the deliverable end? And that perhaps gives them a tool for impact generation. So I'm in that older generation, believing that design and innovation can give them the tool to do that.
I think there's a certain journey that the whole charity to philanthropy road has taken, right? And I think to a certain extent, at the Hong Leong Foundation, we kind of, in Malaysia, we kind of follow that road. We have the first generation, which is just giving, right? They don't have any other time. They don't have time. They're working. They just give, and which is all very well. And it comes down to us, and dragging our ass to the office is, it's not going to happen, right? Because we are such delinquents. No, I'm kidding, but. So is that restlessness, right? It's like you want to do something, but you can't quite pinpoint it, and it's not in the office, and you want to do something. And I think that restlessness leads you towards, maybe coming to conferences. I went back to school, I got my master's, started speaking to people, started speaking to mentors, and you start framing within the boundaries or the parameters of what the board wants. We try and frame a different sort of impact and a different sort of journey. And it was only a day or 2 days ago when they started talking about philanthropy and what kind of philanthropy, you're a convener, you're a whatever, that I realized that we have sort of marked that journey, and now we're trying to put the ducks in a row to really make an ecosystem of change versus just, like a machine gun, right? And hoping that things would change. So that's the kind of difference, I think.
I'm going to go right back to you with this one if I can. So as an outsider, very keenly aware that I'm an outsider to the region, hear a lot of conversations about family and the dynamics of family and sort of the role that prior generations played in establishing the values and the norms. If the approach is a bit different than it might have been from prior generations, are there issues in how you navigate those conversations? How do you deal with the family dynamics?
I think it's a little bit as what they talked about yesterday. You tell me your boundaries and your area that you want to work with, and then from there we try and frame some kind of impact that is palatable to both of us. And then if that's an agreement, then we execute it. So it has to involve a lot of talk. Sometimes if it's a hard no, because I have a hard head, I just do it anyway by myself and not within the foundation, because I just want to experiment, have a small school that's an inclusive school, and there's only 80 kids there, but I want to see if an inclusion model works, so I just do it myself.
And how's that hard-headedness work out?
There's a lot of I told you so going in my head, but I'm going to make this work. It's a bumpy road, I have to say, because sometimes you walk in there and people are like, what does she need cash for? But it's me funding it and myself, and it's okay. It's a bumpy road, but we're getting there.
Sure. I mean, I'd love to talk about that, and also if you come back, I think you said something incredibly important in terms of the challenge of balance of time, and so maybe weaving those both in as you think about some of the shifts.
I think the next generation, like my, son and daughters, like my, daughter, she's, she doesn't even want to use aircon. And they really, that gives us hope in a way that they are really trying to champion. And also in terms of, she's a vegan, and, it's just, I think the future generation are, want to set the example in a different level. But I think in terms of the time, I need to improve on that. I think I think women are also different, and I learned again. I think women and men are different, other than the physical. And I think women tend to sort of, if there's something that comes to you and you feel that there's something you can do about it, so often I'm more, if all I do is connecting the dots, and I'll try to do that. And I think Ruth Yo is here, and she would be like the next, there's some next generations. And I think, it was very touching when she mentioned to me that, it was, I have inspired her in some ways. And I think, just that alone to me, I felt, it's meaningful. Yeah, so I think if we could, I think I'm learning the process. We have this U process, that U theory that we work with. It's an MIT systems approach. It's how to do open mind, open heart, open will. And how do we design a journey with multi-stakeholders and be able to sort of do more, but with less time, but with more people and together. It's kind of from a small U to a big U. Sort of you discover yourself from a different frame of mind, and it's quite powerful. And we have been working on that under our foundation. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Well, yeah, I mean, as you think again about different approaches, have there been challenges that you've had to navigate sort of within family, and also given that you're sort of between generations in many ways, also as you think about sort of what might be different going forward with your kids?
First, I'll take it from two angles. One, I applaud media because that's created awareness. And the awareness program has been proliferating over the past maybe 20 years, and all the young generations have picked on it. So kudos to that. But with that, that's an interesting take, because I'm going to give you a little story, make you smile a little. I said to my son when he turned 17, "Son, it's time for you to get a driver's license." He says, "Why?" I says, "That's the coolest thing a guy can do. Drive a car, dad's got a couple cars, you can go pick up chicks and impress the girls." You know what my son says? He says, I don't need to drive. I don't want to drive. I said, "Why not? What if I fall ill? You can take me to the doctors or the hospital." He goes, "Dad, an ambulance will be there." I said, "So do you not want to learn how to drive?" He goes, "No." I said, "Then it's cool to drive." He says, "Dad, I tell you what's cool. A car that drives on its own and picks my girlfriend up. Now that's cool. Me having to drive to go pick up my girlfriend, that's not cool." I'm sharing this little thing with you because after I spoke with him, it hit me really hard that we see the world very different from the next generation seeing the world. When I graduated from the US and I come back and I said to my late parents, I said, "Mom, what's up?" My mom says, "That's very bad English." But now my son says to me, "Dad, lol." And I think to him, that's very bad English. But the truth is, every generation creates their own language or their pattern language. Do you know what I mean? And we tend to want to impose what we think is good on them. But the reality to it all is that generation next will figure this out themselves. All we have to do is give them the tools. We just have to empower them and continue with the great media efforts like all this digital stuff and seeing the deep sea, letting them know what's really out there. That's the stuff we can do. We can help facilitate this and give them the tools. And I think really that's where this is all going to pivot in the next 5 to 10 years. Just give it to them.
Yeah, I mean, I want to build on that a little bit, and we'll do sort of one more round and then get to closing just because it is a little bit warm for everybody, and we'll keep the panel moving. One of the rising trends that we're seeing, and so if I can start with you in philanthropy, and we'll just go down the line, is a strong desire to collaborate effectively and partner, whether that's with other funders, whether that's with networks of donors, recipients, and also with government. Have you seen sort of a mindset evolution? Because another piece I've heard historically, some will say philanthropy can be done privately and alone, but we're seeing, I think, an emergence of a lot of different public, private, and other partnerships. How do you think about doing that, and what have been some of the challenges as well? Because I don't think we talk about those enough.
Wow. I've got a brain is going quickly here. I think it's really important to work with every possible stakeholder, right? From the government right down to the child or to the issues that you are doing. And actually, we had a collective impact with YTL as well in Malaysia. We ran it for 7 years. There was a couple of the bigger foundations that were together. And they had to have town hall meetings. We had to have meetings with the ministry. We met the local teachers. We met the students. Well, not me, the administration bone. So it's everyone. It's such a cliche, but it literally does take a village, right? And I think that's the importance of collaboration, because at the end of the day, all that data becomes advocacy. And whether your government is listening or not, we still need to push. And with enough, I think they get deaf to NGOs lobbying. So if big businesses come in and try and lobby a little bit, where you're allowed by your corp com, then it does change it a little bit, you know. And I think it's more important now than ever.
Yeah, so the combination of really using the voice to drive collaboration. Sherry, do you want to build on that?
Yeah, I think actually our foundation is called United in Diversity Foundation. It started sort of focusing on education, and we have really seen sort of outcomes. I think, for example, I was on the board of the Singapore Science Centre, and we have, I think, introduced kind of that philosophy to the Science Centre community, and they have participated also in our programs that we work with in Indonesia, where we work with multi-stakeholders. So one of the program, actually with Tsinghua University, is Happy Digital Acts. Actually, we work with Tsinghua and also faculty at MIT, and we bring the U into big data, the systems to the big data. And we were, within a few months, some of the participants were from a very poor region called Sumedang. And that prototype, they reduced stunting by 50% within a year. And it has been continuing and has won the Indonesian President Jokowi's recognition. So now they ask our foundation to work with on the digitization for the rest of the provinces, and not just stunting, but overall on the big data and digitization process. So, and that's just one example. We have had example of national scale policy on social forestry law because of the indigenous community. Some of the participants who joined were actually jailing the indigenous community when they joined the program. There was a lot of conflicts. But at the end of the program, they actually became partners, and not only became partners, they were setting new regulations for the whole country, which has been, very successful on this. I mean, there's still a lot of issues, but, it has won a lot of support from the indigenous and community. So we have now focused on just the indigenous community program, Bakal, and it's, the outcomes is. So I fully believe that, collaboration and the spiritual aspect of it. So we have mindfulness, we have the arts of it, the music, arts, they're all part of the program. So it's not just the science and the technical, and we do shadowing, and so it's quite an area that we have been working for more than 15 years. Thank you.
That's great, thank you. Boon, talked in the beginning about the challenge of sorry, I'll speak up, I know there's no monitor on the stage. You talked earlier about the challenge of boots on the ground. And so how, as you've clearly designed a breakthrough innovation, how do you think about crowding in others into the journey to bring it along? What are the possibilities and what are the challenges?
Call me. Just teasing. That's the fastest. I'll pick up on these two on collaboration, which dovetail with what you're asking. everybody wants clean energy, no? We want to generate clean energy. We know that. We all agree. And we all want to consume clean energy. We all do that. So it's not the black or the white. It's the 50 shades of gray in between. For example, if someone can create clean energy, how do they do that in the different regions? For example, in the windy area, you do wind. In a sunny area, you use sun, right? So that's one discussion, and that's the science behind it. But then from there, you trickle to the next shade of gray, which is how do you store it? Because there's no sun 24 hours a day. And then how do you distribute it efficiently with no loss? And then how do you get it to the consumer? So it's a shade of grays, which I think I'll cling on to your word collaboration, right? Because there are many brilliant people in between the black and the white and the 50 shades of gray that can daisy chain it all together so that we can bring the clean energy from the creation to the people that need it. Clean water is the same. We know where water is because we cannot create water. You know, if there's no water, there's no life. But that doesn't mean you can drink it. So we all know there's water, and we know there are people who want to drink it, and there's 50 shades of grays in between. So creating the science to figure that out, distributing it, getting boots on the ground, distribution, replacements of parts, storage of parts, et cetera, and how is it sustainable in a sort of an enterprise sense. It's a full food chain of collaboration. And I think your question is the question that I ask because I see this audience here and I think you're the giving community. We know there's a needing community out there. I'm trying to provide an innovation solution on the ground. And so what I'd like to do is to collaborate with you, identify boots on the ground, and there are many different kinds of boots on the ground. Sometimes you can give money, sometimes you can give products and solutions. Like they say, give the man the fish or teach the man how to fish. But we need to do this together. I've got the fish rod. You've got the giving heart. Maybe together we can give the fishing rod and the sinker and the hook and teach them how to fish. Or you could give money and buy them fish. It's your choice. That's awesome. I think we can collab. I think you guys understand where I'm coming from. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, we're right at the end. I just want to wrap with one and keep it to a couple-word answer. Dream for the future of philanthropy in Asia in the next 15, 20 years. What would be a hope that you have?
Oh my goodness. No philanthropy, I guess.
No philanthropy because we solved it. Yeah. Great. Sherry?
No, I think philanthropy is not about money. It's actually, the original wording, it actually is also the love. So I do feel that there is such a lack of that now in this world. So that spiritual aspect of it. And that's where I think the indigenous communities can inspire. You know, I learned from the Balinese, the three hita karana, the three ways to happiness. First way to happiness, harmony of people with people. Second is the harmony of people with nature. And the third is us with the spiritual.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you.
Last word. Dream for the future.
Dream.
Clean water.
They're thinkers and they're the doers, right? There's the hunters and the farmers, if you know what I mean. The planet's divided this way. I think I wish the same, that there's no philanthropy in the future because we don't need it. But I think the challenge on the table is this at the moment. If you think history, there's one king, one. There's one general called Cao Cao, one. And there were 20,000 warriors fighting. What I'm trying to say is philanthropy is that one giving act. That 50 shades of gray is the warrior, and we all need to fight. So what I'd like to say to you is my one wish is everyone become a doer, not just a strategist and a giver. I want to see your boots on the ground yourself because you can make a difference.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.